Having discussed the history of psychology and sexual orientation, as well as the current perspectives of the APS and the government, let's talk about how each psychologist needs to act in present day to comply with ethical guidelines.
The opposing values that a practitioner can hold regarding clients who identify as LGB can strongly impact the efficacy of psychological treatment and in some cases can be detrimental to the health and well-being of these clients. As discussed, overt biases toward LGB clients within psychotherapy have largely diminished over time due to improved attitudes, progress in LGB-focused literature, and better training opportunities for practitioners on LGB issues.
In today's world, clients still continue to report cases of substantial judgment and hostility from their therapists. As discussed, although more overt forms of heterosexism have diminished over time, Shelton and Delgado Romero suggest that implicit and/or explicit negative attitudes towards LGB clients are now expressed in more subtle forms of bias known as microaggressions.
Microaggressions are described as any verbal or non-verbal behaviour that communicates derogatory messages towards LGB clients within psychotherapy. This can be demonstrated through the wording of therapist questions, the cues they present, and potentially through their body language. For example, a psychologist may change their physical demeanour or posture when a client discloses that they identify as LGB.
Microaggressions are often communicated by therapists unconsciously and free from ill intent, highlighted through the experiences of an LGB client who stated that it's pretty pervasive, I think, but I don't think it's malicious, it's just they don't know.
Shelton and Delgado Romero analysed the retrospective experiences of LGB clients in psychotherapy and suggested that there are 7 key themes that encompass microaggressions within the therapeutic relationship. Within these themes, there is evidence of violations of the APS LGB guidelines. Specifically, all themes show violations in respect to Guideline 1, Attitudes and Knowledge, Guideline 3, Professional Development, Guideline 4, Relationships, and Guideline 5, Bisexual clients.
The 7 key themes include:
Theme 1. The assumption that sexual orientation is the cause of all presenting issues. This can be particularly harmful as it illustrates to a client that their sexual orientation is the key problem, asserting that once this problem has been treated, all of these difficulties that they face will reduce.
Theme 2. Avoidance and minimising the importance of the client's sexual orientation. This can convey to a client that when they experience problems pertaining to their sexual orientation, that these are not important or that they should feel uncomfortable discussing these issues because their therapist is displaying discomfort. This is supported by the experience of an LGB client who stated that
the therapists I have seen have either avoided talking about sexuality altogether, or when they have talked about it, have assumed me to be heterosexual, making it harder for me to bring up the issue.
Theme 3. Attempts to over-identify with LGB clients. This can be demonstrated as a therapist frequently references to someone that they personally know who identifies as LGB within a therapy session, or may be displayed as a therapist attempts to befriend an LGB client and consistently engages in small talk to ease potential tension within the therapy. This may send a message to LGB clients that the therapist is assuming that all issues regarding LGB sexual orientation are the same for all people.
Theme 4. Making stereotypical assumptions about LGB clients. For example, a therapist may be visibly shocked when a gay man indicates that he works at a hardware store during a therapy session. This type of microaggression reinforces the idea that all LGBT people are alike and therefore that all LGBT people face the same issues.
Theme 5. Expressions of heteronormative bias. As previously discussed, overt heteronormative biases have largely diminished, however, more subtle forms still exist. For example, a therapist's office may display heterosexual books and pamphlets, or perhaps as an LGB client discloses their sexuality, the therapists reinforce that they are heterosexual. This sends a message to the client that they are abnormal and that they should feel uneasy and embarrassed about their sexual orientation.
Theme 6. Assumption that LGB individuals need psychotherapeutic treatment. This is demonstrated if a therapist encourages a client to remain in treatment against the client's wishes. This suggests to a client that they are unable to make rational decisions and reinforces the idea that LGB sexual orientation is pathologic. This relates to our ethical code of informed consent and echoes compulsory treatments that have occurred in the past.
Theme 7. Warnings about the dangers of identifying as LGB. This can be displayed as a client discusses experiences of discrimination. A therapist may assert that this lifestyle brings certain problems with it, suggesting that problems that a client faces are their own fault for choosing an LGB identity.
All these themes show blatant ignorance to the guidelines.
So, how do these microaggressions really affect the therapeutic relationship?
Created using Powtoon.